Are we free to do as we please? Or is the freedom of choice we feel in our day-to-day lives a mere illusion? Is every action, circumstance predetermined? Or can our wills transcend the past to actively shape the future? Does determinism, the theory that everything is determined by pre-existing causes, render our conceptions of free will and individual responsibility redundant? Or are such conceptions compatible with a deterministic world? This is a classic dilemma for humanity that comes up almost constantly. How can we use our free will? As divine beings, we have the ability to create our future. There are circumstances through that may appear to be out of our direct control, like past life karma, destiny, and current world events. Destiny is the destination. How you get there is the free will. You can sit there and waste your time on what others are doing and what others going on around you. Or you could stay in your God bubble and say, hey, look, I've got control of my God bubble. I can control what I'm thinking. I'm in control of my space. I have control over what I'm doing. Why do I want to expend all this energy on what someone is supposedly doing to me or society? Because it begins with the individual. Once an individual changes and others change, then society follows suit. It's like the lotus flower. Until that flower opens up and becomes what it's going to be, well then, it becomes the most potent. While you're in growth stage and you're dormant, there is really no flowering or expansion, is there? Do you think options are slim because you feel others are taking your choices away from you? Then perhaps you are the one restricting yourself. And that is a very limiting way of thinking. You are not open or expanded to new ideas and concepts. Then new things can change what you want. So instead, you're focusing on what isn't instead of what could be. Where is your self-mastery? Let's get together Friday night for a live Q&A about how we can effectively use our free will. Ooh, and I'm exercising my free will right now. Thanks for being here on Andromeda 7, your celestial gateway, your channel for community support, help, friendship, love, knowledge, being of value to others. Welcome back. If you're new to the channel, it's good to have you with us. And if you're returning, we greatly appreciate that. Well, you know, it's Friday night and it's time to feed your mind and grow your heart. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here tonight. It's good to be with you. Do a quick shout out in the chat room and say hello to everyone. Beloved Abstract, good to see you, sir. Welcome, welcome. Sip of the Divine, love it. Chloe, good to see you as well. Wonderful, welcome. Let's see, I got Lucky Stone. Hi, Lucky, good to have you with us tonight, brother. Good to see you, sup. Lee, hi to you. Thank you. We love you being here. Thanks, Lee. Yeah, seems like people are still kind of rolling in, but that's all right. It's all good.
It's a Friday night.
Yep, whoever's meant to be here is meant to be here, and we're here, so we're bringing the party to the virtual world, aren't we?
Yeah.
So, Teresa, I'm going to throw it over to you. Boop,
Okay, dokie.
boop. And let you give the opening remarks
Sure,
and
sure.
everyone settle in. And here we go.
All right. Well, greetings, everyone, and happy Friday. And our sister Sophia was trying to get in, having technical difficulties, so I think she'll be hanging out in the chat room. Peekaboo.
Hmm.
So Karen says hi to everyone. She wants to give you her love, and she's traveling on her way to see her sister in San Antonio, Texas. And
Awesome.
it's her birthday tomorrow. It's officially her birthday tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow.
So
Okay.
happy birthday to Karen. Yes.
Wow. Happy
And I
birthday, Karen.
believe I believe Scotty Roberts is out of the soup, and I think he's in the clear. So health wise, he's doing better. If anybody knows anything different, just type it out in chat. Okay, so opening remarks. I have a very special quote. Okay. Each and every soul incarnated has complete and total free will. Not only do you have it, you direct and guide it. In order to experience it, you would need a life plan that needs a destination. Free will is how you arrive at the self designated destination. Simply put, conscious beings spend many lifetimes developing themselves. They turn, they learn, they grow, and they expand with experiences. Free will is how you move through it by making choices. Think about all you have experienced in a lifetime, maybe multiple lifetimes. Knowledge, wisdom, relationships, lots of growth. You choose your path. Free will allows you to be in control of the route. That's Lori Pure Love Ascension. Now, we'll also be discussing tonight inner free will and how that works with and is often in conflict with external civil liberties and freedoms. And we'll talk about the three types of freedom and how people get one confused with the other. And I see it as internal self freedom to pick and choose what we want is often in conflict with social, the concept of freedom, liberty, justice, and happiness for all, the institutions that make the laws. Sometimes they appear to be in conflict, and that can lead one to great frustration over time. And if you're not in balance, one can perceive that they have no free will at all. So we'll talk about that in a bit. Did that okay, Lori? Bounce it back
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah. Uh, I say let's just kind of get into it. I'm curious as to Dalabor's, and I always like to lead with Dalibor,
Yeah.
with what your thoughts are on free will and how you see it, because we all see things differently. And so I'm curious about how you reflect free will.
Oh, sure. Free will is the expression of your unique consciousness, your unique personality. It's the sum total of all the choices that you make based on the choices that are either presented to you or that you perceive to be presented to you. Of course, there's always a difference between what we actually, what our possibilities are in terms of choices that we have and the ones that we perceive to be there. Sometimes it looks like we have a choice of only this or that, but in reality, it could be maybe five or six different things. Uh, Basically, free will is that which makes us sentient, sentient as opposed to just conscious. Conscious. In other
Ooh.
words, an animal is going to pretty much react the same way each and every time. If you give it food, it's going to eat. If you give it water, it's going to drink. So on and so forth.
More
Uh,
instinctual.
More yeah, based on instinct,
Hmm.
whereas free will is that which is volitional, that which you intend, an expression of your literal conscience, you could say,
Hmm.
as opposed to consciousness.
Gotcha. So, what would you say to those people that believe that it's just programming? It's the brain's way of programming you. So, no matter what you're thinking or doing, your brain is the one that takes over and makes all the decisions. What do you say to those types of people
Well,
that believe that?
that's left brain thinking. That's
Hmm.
left brain thinking, and
Hmm.
that's because in sociology or in psychology we have this dichotomy of nature versus nurture, and this seems to lean on the side of nature. where everything is predetermined by your genes, your socioeconomic status, your parents, your geographic location, and that sort of thing. Whereas, in the right brain thinking, you
Mm-hmm.
can transcend every single one of those things. And, the research of people like Bruce Lipton has proven that you can transcend your genes. You can turn them on and off at will.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a slave to your circumstances. You don't necessarily have to follow the same life path or as your parents did, and you're not limited, especially not today with today's technology and globalization and everything. You're not limited by geography. You're not even limited by handicaps. You're not
Mm-mm.
limited by anything really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no
So
limits. Yeah, I
yeah,
believe
so
that wholeheartedly.
I think we're moving away from like a deterministic worldview to
Mm-hmm.
like the opposite of that, which is more free will, more
Mm-hmm.
individual liberty.
Yeah, I think too, once you become more spiritual and you realize that you can control your thoughts and your thinking, you can get ahead of that monkey mind situation,
Hmm.
then you really, really start using the free will. It's quite amazing to know that that anything is possible and you can do anything that you want. You can have and do anything you want, but it's just your own limitations that hold you back from that.
Hmm.
How about you, Grandpa Brian? And I know that you have a bit of a delay, so we'll wait for you to catch up. But I'm curious as to your definition and your opinions about free will as well.
Free will,
No lag.
it has good consequences and bad consequences.
Ooh,
You always
that's
got to
true.
be you always got to be mindful of
Mm-hmm.
how you use your free will. To me, there's three different kinds of free will. There's a general free will, like speeding. All right, I had the free will to speed, but
Yeah,
there's
that's a
going to be a
good one.
consequence. Then
Yeah.
there's the free will of helping other people. And then there's the free will of service to self, which that's basically like a negative free will where, you don't care about what your free will does to other people and the consequences because it's all about you.
Ah,
So
Mm.
to me, there's
Hmm.
three different types of free will. And there's just the
yeah.
general one where, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
all right, I'm going to do 70 and a 55, even though I'm not really hurting anybody, but I can still get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
That's
Or you can reap the repercussions of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But there's always a consequence, whether it's good or bad, to the free will
Right.
choice that you make.
Yeah, most definitely. Wow, that's cool. Very cool. How about you, Teresa? What's your opinion? How do you feel about free will and how do you use it?
free will. You wield. You don't
Hmm.
yield.
Ah, like a
Hence the
sword?
warrior. Hence the warrior.
Uh-huh.
Um, I see.
I
I
like
started
that.
looking into it. I was meditating on this a couple of days ago, and
Mm-hmm.
I see where the meshing is taking place. There's three types of uh, civil freedoms, social freedoms,
Mm-hmm.
external. I see free will as our wants, desires, choices that we make, and I see freedom as the means to achieve how we go about implementing our free will. And so in society, there's the first kind of freedom is like
Mm-hmm.
freedom from the constraints
Mm-hmm.
of society. The second is freedom to, a freedom to do whatever we want to do. And sometimes that gets into the area that Brian just mentioned on that
Mm-hmm.
aspect of free will. It's all self focused. Thirdly, there's a freedom to be, the freedom
Mm-hmm.
not just to do what we want, but the freedom to be who we were meant to be. And so during this controversy, those two are conflicted. And there's something called positive external freedom, which is having the external means to achieve our ends and fulfill our desires or interests, right? But then it's becoming more and more apparent in society that those freedoms are being limited by the things that are happening around us. And so it seems that society might be losing control of certain things, certain freedoms that we once enjoyed. We're feeling that, especially during that whole time with the pandemic. It's
Sure.
just been mushrooming.
Mm-hmm.
And then there appears to be a conflict within our own self, our inner choices, and that now we don't longer have a free will, is what I keep hearing.
Mm-hmm.
So even in the most unwanted and undesired and uncomfortable situations, regardless of how tragic they might appear to be at the time, I still have choices. That's how I feel. I still have
Right.
choices over my personal responses,
Mm-hmm.
emotions, and thoughts. And I can find workarounds. The universe always, as long as I'm tapping in to spirit,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that reintegration of me and all parts of me, that balance, enables me to bring the warrior out and say, no, I'm not going to cooperate. Or, no, I'm going to find a way around this. I always have control over it. And even
Mm-hmm.
if things are happening around me, I usually find a way to navigate it. So that's how I wield my power.
Yeah.
I don't get upset or freak out or get upset and think that the end of the world is upon me and my soul is going to be ripped away from me and all that. I don't go in there. I don't go to that emotion. I go to
Mm-hmm.
the knowing of who I am and what it
Mm-hmm.
is and what it was that I came here to accomplish. Once you figure that out, you know what your purpose is. It's
Right.
just your like you said, it's a journey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's a destination. And as long as I keep my eyes fixed on my journey and my destination,
Mm-hmm. It's just how
I
you get
find a
there.
way. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Good.
um Yeah, so it's like you can feel like you're being manipulated and moved around over here, or you can feel like you're the driver in the driver's seat and you're driving yourself. So it
Mm-hmm.
really is, it's about perception and how you see things. If you feel like things are out of control, then you're being puppeted by this guy. But if you're in control and you're driving, then you're the one in the driver's seat. It's really, for me, it's that simple. And I like to keep things extremely simple because spirit does that for me. Uh,
Mhm.
I'd
Yeah,
like to answer this one. I'd like to respond to Pa Joe's remark.
okay, please do.
Pa Joe, I see natural law is our tool. It's our authority. See, I don't think that anything has authority over me or us. The way I see it is that natural law is that tool that's given to us universally that we know intuitively that we are divine ourselves and that we have the ability to shift our thoughts or shift other people's thoughts sometimes in terms of just putting that energy out there. And the more positive we are about the changes and people see how we're making changes, they see how we're working through things, then they start thinking along the same way. And what you end up with is a shift in consciousness for everyone. So I see universal law not as being an authority over us, but a tool for us to use.
Yeah,
It's a different
I
perspective.
agree. Yeah, it is a tool, but it's entirely up to you. When I was talking to, and when I first started getting into my guide, and I was asking all of these questions,
Mm-hmm.
they always kept it really simple. And they said, you're a sovereign being and you are free, 100% free to pick and choose and do whatever you want to do. So never believe anything other than uh, the fact that you are a sovereign being. So to me, that was really important to know that because I always felt like we were controlled by the government, by our bosses at work, by, so many other entities and things that were going on in your life. So I never really felt like I had full control until I started to realize and open myself up to the concept that I was a free and sovereign being and that I chose to be here. I chose the avatar. I chose where I was going to live. And once I realized all of that, things started falling into place. And then I felt like I really had a choice in how I thought about things.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's what allowed me to shift into that mindset. Um, and then I actually experienced a lot of physical things from those concepts, from learning them and becoming enlightened, I literally felt physical effects of switching the way I thought. And to me, that was very interesting. Yeah, I
Mhm.
see universal law as a simple guide. Boom.
Well, see, I would interject a different dimension into this. Usually, free will consists of an exercise of different choices, and it's always good to A, use your instinct when making a
Mm-hmm.
choice,
Yeah.
and B, always consider the moral significance of that choice. Like, which of those choices is the most morally correct? Given the circumstances. And by morally, it doesn't necessarily mean in a churchy way. It could mean um, take it as you will. I mean, let me tell you a short story. Back in 1991, when I
Mm-hmm.
moved to Europe, I was
Uh-huh.
working for a certain international organization, and I was slated to be one of these young global leaders. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and while I was there, while I was working there, I met my current girlfriend, and we got together, and we were kind of had the same opinions, about the company and all this stuff. And a lot of people were telling me, this stuff is beneath you. You're a smart guy. You should be earning way more than 5,000 crowns a month.
Mm-hmm.
If you take on any other job, you'll make much more money.
Mm-hmm.
And so one day there was kind of a big showdown, and my girlfriend got fired. And when I heard that happened, I went to the general director and I said, I quit. I'm handing in my 2 months notice. He's like, well, if you're going to be like that and you're going to hand in your 2 months notice, then you're fired on the spot right now.
I've
And
done that before.
yeah, within a month, I had a
Mm-hmm.
job that was paying me 13,000 crowns a
Mm-hmm.
month.
Yep.
And because I got into, instead of management, I got into sales.
Mm-hmm.
And that set me on a totally different path. Instead of like the corporate world, I was more aligned towards like independent self-directed entrepreneurship, which is what sales is in a way, because you're earning a commission. So now when I look back, I figure I made the right choice, because nowadays I would have been one of those people that we hate, one of those World Economic Forum people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I
And
talk about exercising your free will.
yes, I
I
use
mean,
my
and that
instinct.
on the yeah, and that's exactly what the way that I
Hmm.
do it as well. I always go with the gut. I
Yeah.
know in an instant if this is the right thing to do or if it isn't, and I
Hmm.
follow it. And I tell you, and every time I don't follow it, that's when I get into trouble. That's when things
Exactly.
don't go quite the way I anticipated.
Yeah,
But
because that's basically your I don't know what to call it in terms of like a computer, but it's
mhm,
more like your RAM. Your RAM
yeah,
is telling you something different than what
yeah,
your data is telling you, and you
right,
should always
right.
go by that, because
Yes,
that's
the
your
gut.
subconscious,
Yep.
and that has access to a whole lot more information and
Mm-hmm.
experiences than your conscious mind
Mm-hmm.
does, which means you're better off making a decision based on gut feeling.
That solar
Then
plexus deep in that, yeah.
exactly, because I could have stayed in that company to this very day. I could have
Mhm.
had a cushy
Ooh,
job,
talk about all
no
the hoops you'd
worries.
be jumping.
Exactly, but exactly, I'd have to
But
sell
you
my
knew.
soul. But
Yeah, right. You were
I knew I
not
didn't want to sell
prepared.
my. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
love that.
Hmm.
Teresa, you were going to say something? That's a cool story, Delabor.
No, I love that story.
Thank you.
No, I was
Yes.
raising my finger for the next time. Sophia just texted and she can't sustain a connection, so she has to leave the chat room as well. She's
Hmm.
Yeah.
bummed out. She loves you all. She
Oh,
says, catch you next time. And
Yeah.
we love you, Sophia, if you're
Yeah.
listening.
Love you,
Um,
Yeah.
sister.
yep.
you
Yep.
Hmm.
tried your best.
Go
And
have a Snickers.
go ahead. Yeah, finish that Snickers bar.
Hmm.
Um,
Get you some.
okay, so I I jotted something down from my journal, um,
Okay.
if that's okay. And I think I shared it with you the other day.
Okay.
I see that universal law of free will choice as part of the laws of creation that
Mm-hmm.
Terry Ryan had in his book
Oh, yeah.
under the
Hmm.
laws of creation. And
Mm.
so one of them, he breaks it down to three segments, and one of them is the free will choice aspect of it. And I have this in my journal entry. Free will choice gives me the ability and freedom to oversee myself and things I decide to do or not to do. It enables me to set appropriate boundaries for myself to protect my energy and the personal power to stay on my path of initiation and ascension to other higher realms within and without. And I jotted down because I was going through his stuff. The law basically says that no one shall control another's physical, mental, emotional, sexual, or spiritual experiences. And for those who choose to do that to others, to violate that, the repercussions of this violation result in decades and centuries of misplaced balance that affects the harmony of the universe and generates reincarnated souls that are stuck in an endless loop, correcting all the karma they have created.
Karmic wheel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Spinning. Years
like
spinning.
I always say, obedience is not a virtue. You know,
Uh-uh.
you can compress the Bible down to essences and extract these essences and distill it. You will not find any references to that being a virtue.
Right.
And
And for those who keep,
same with any other holy book.
yeah, and for those who just keep doing that to other people, they haven't learned their lessons. They're stuck in that cycle, and usually it's because of their own hidden agendas. But that's not something that I choose to experience. Okay, so I've made the choice not to do that to others. To try my best not to violate somebody else's free will, and that does because it doesn't come from a heart space of love. It doesn't come
Correct.
from a respect for other people or love of myself, and I found that out the hard way because I wasn't the nicest person sometimes.
Well, and it's also
So I
like
guess
Lucky
true.
Stone said.
huh?
It's also like what Lucky Stone said. It's if you're forced between two different choices, that's not morality. That's coercion.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
In other
yeah,
words, you know, if they
Yeah.
ask you like Coke or Pepsi, you should say Sprite.
yeah,
I like
yeah.
it.
So I ended up, especially this past year and a half with Lori and some others on this program, I ended up seeing things through different set of lenses, and so I'm using my free will as my own self check because it keeps my actions in control right now. It's how I prevent myself from inflicting harm on others by sending that unbalanced energy and nastiness out into the universe. So I know that now I always have a choice how I will respond to how other people violate me because I've been attacked too by people, even in this community. And I never knew why. I couldn't understand what the hell was going on. But I would get very upset over it. And I don't do that anymore because they are all reflections of me.
Yeah.
So after an initial jolt of shock or revulsion, I choose to love them back as best I can. But sometimes it's from afar because I have to maintain an objective perspective, hoping for the best outcome possible for them and for me, for all those involved. So I don't have fear of what they say or do because that's their free will to do that. See, that's the thing. That's their free will to behave that way. Those are the choices they made. And I might not like it and I might be repulsed by it. And when legal systems and institutions do things, I might resist it. But and choose not to cooperate. But I just have to stay within my own divinity and know who and what I am and what I've worked on to get to where I am. And this is just a vessel, you know.
Yep.
And I'm just and they're having human experiences just like I'm having human experiences. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to let them off the hook, but they have to judge their own selves. They have to figure out where they're going to go within their cycle. I have mine and they have theirs. And so to protect them and myself, I just create very healthy boundaries. It's still unconditional love. I'm not seeking revenge. I'm not going after them. I'm not going to behave in the same way. I'm just going to back away and let them be who they need to be, wherever their journey is. I know where my destination is. And so That's how I use the free will choice. That's how I wield it. And that's powerful.
Yeah, most definitely. And so Lucky Stone's asking, can you violate someone else's free will? Doesn't
Yes.
free will depend on all my own choices? You only have control over you. You don't have control over other people. And that's the difference. That's like, being in traffic and you accidentally cut someone off. Like no one's ever done that. And they scream and yell at you. And, do you give them the finger? Do you go, fangul, right back at you? Or, or do you just say, I've done that before myself and it's okay. Maybe you're having a bad day. It's like you got to see it for what it is instead of taking things so personally all the time. And boy, I was the queen of taking things personally in the back in the day. So I know that flip side and I don't ever want to go back to that.
Heck, I can exercise my free will choice to slug you.
Yeah.
Or to do physical harm to you, right?
Bump your bumper or
your bumper.
Or road rage or come after you or, and all these things accelerate and go crazy when all you really have to do is go, that person's doing the best they can today. Maybe that's their best. I've been there. I've done that. So I just kind of let it go like a vapor. I just let it dissipate and move on.
This is where I wish I had the book in front of me, Terry's book, the other law, which is karma. This is where it comes into play, where you put that energy out there and violate somebody else's path or choice. Yes, Lori, that's it. And the keys to the kingdom, if you go out there and violate somebody else's choice, and you put that out there, it's going to come back at you tenfold in some way, somehow. It might not be the person that you violated, but because you put the energy out there, it's going to come back at you from another source.
Yeah, but
and
there's a lot of gray areas.
Cause and effect.
Well, lots of gray areas where you don't really know how your choices are going to affect the free will of others. And you really, sometimes you're not in a position where you can spend, 2 weeks thinking about some decision that you're about to make in the next 5 minutes, where you can actually think it through like, if I do this, then this. If I do this, then that.
That's happenstance, though. That's that's natural. The universe knows that. You didn't intentionally set about to create havoc for somebody. You unintentionally, you made a choice that was best for you, your free will. Within the situation, you did the best you could. You made the best choice you could. And it might be some fallout that some other person gets affected by that. But it's all about intent. It's your motive.
Yeah. Is it positive or is it negative? Yeah. How are you going to respond? Are you going to respond positively or negatively? Not right or wrong, not this or that. It's positive or negative. It's an energy.
Yeah.
So that's like the other day I went to I was running an errand, and you know how every once in a while you get that stop sign and then you think, okay, if I just quickly get out there, I'll get through the intersection or whatever. And I made a bad mistake and I pulled up too far forward and all these cars started coming and I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. It's me. It's my bad. I'm sorry. Just let me come through and I'll get out of your way. And nobody got pissy with me. Nobody honked at me. I was like, I know. I got it. I'm sorry. I should have stayed at the stop sign just a little bit longer and allowed the traffic to go by, but I didn't. And so that was my free will choice. But also, I didn't let it affect me in a way that was negative. I just simply owned it and said, okay, sorry, guys. My bad. I'll do better next time. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I like that. Yes, and I did show that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, and that. Yes, I've got all that.
Yep. So do you think our free will gets nudges for us to experience certain things?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Or do you think it's predetermined that we are supposed to experience that?
That's interesting.
See,
Go ahead,
my
Laurie.
theory is that if you were to go back in time where you could make that same choice again, you would make that same choice again.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. I would have to agree
I
with
agree.
that. Yeah.
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 Uh-huh. Yeah.
Because it's in that moment. It's in that moment, and that's what you were thinking. You're not in a
That's
reflective mode.
retrocausality.
There you go.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. My free will likes to free willy. Doug?
Okay. Now they're getting silly. Karma can kiss my beep. Beep, beep.
Well, like I said in the
Kiss my
comment section,
bumper.
free will
Yep.
is what you make of it,
It
literally.
is,
Yeah.
really. It truly is. Free will is what you make of it.
And you got to think the first time that you use free will is entering into this life.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Becoming a physical being.
a physical being. It was your free will as a spirit to come experience being a human.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Do
exactly.
you
Yep.
see Scotty's remark there?
Yes. I feel the
Yeah.
only karma we answer for is that in which we created in this life.
Well, not just this life, but also all the previous lives.
Lives. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right.
I've been
Yeah.
cleaning up karma from several lifetimes. Yes, I have. Oh, I
Me
know
too.
that for a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it feels good when you clear it up. It really does.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so I told Lori this story about the civil liberties. When I wanted to put a greenhouse in, I was in communication. I was just learning how to communicate with people who had moved on, and Brian Barnett came through, and he's the one that had given me all these plans before he passed away on how to think about building greenhouses in small spaces. He got me started on that, and I was sharing things with my brother, and my brother was helping to design it. And but before I started, you have to fill out a form to send to the Townhome Association, putting in a request so that they know what you're doing, because you're not allowed to build any kind of structures on your property in this Townhome Association without their knowing about it. And you have to have an architectural plan and yada, yada, yada. So I went through all the loops, jumped through all the hoops, and I got a letter. And it said, and they said, you will be in violation if you try to build a greenhouse on your property, because we consider that an enclosed structure and an addition onto the back of your townhome. And if you do build something like that, it always has to be within a certain amount of feet away from the house. It can't be attached to that. It can't be attached. And they just had this whole list of rules and regulations. And they also had the Montgomery County Code that they were quoting as well. So I looked through all the documentation, I look at everything, and I'm like, you mean they want you to use the same kind of roofing and siding material on your greenhouse that's on your townhouse? And my townhouse has typical roofing tile, which is made of tar, and it has aluminum siding. Okay? So a greenhouse can't function that way. And so I just looked at it, and I said, and I'm standing on this deck that they put in before I ever moved in. And the deck is made of a certain kind of wood, not siding. I said, okay, I'll match your requirements. I'll get the same kind of wood that you put on my deck. And by the way, the deck is attached to the house. This won't be. So it won't be considered a separate dwelling unit or an addition. It won't be a considered addition, and it won't be a separate dwelling unit. Why? Because it's going to have no closed-in walls. It's going to be mesh screen. And I'm going to use plexiglass for the roof, which reflects back the colors and the vinyl material from the house. You really can't tell by looking at it from a distance because it looks like it's blending in with the house. And so I went through all these different things. And now I could have chosen to get really nasty, take them to court, get a lawyer. I just go through this process. I just proceeded to implement my free will because I used their own restrictions against them simply by responding.
By not adhering to them.
by not
By
adhering to them
finding a
and not
different
yielding
way.
it.
Yeah, finding a different way to make it happen.
I didn't give them my power.
No.
Fighting them and resisting them and just butting heads with them would have been giving them power, and also throwing up my hands and going, oh, shoot, I don't really have any free will because I'm not allowed to do what I want to do.
Yeah, you would have
And they've
sabotaged,
taken it away from me.
self-sabotaged. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's taking everything away from me, and I can't get anything done that I want to get done.
Right.
It's that connection that I had because Brian Barnett came through. Breathe, calm down.
Mm-hmm.
You can still do this. Great Mother, one of my guides, came to me at the time. We had a chat. It was a series of meditation in connection with spirit. Go ahead, Lori.
How much do you want to bet that Brian Barnett already saw your greenhouse existing and where it was? What do you want
Probably.
to bet he already saw that?
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you what happened. I finished building it. And those of you who have seen the video on the
I've seen your greenhouse.
The
Mhm.
greenhouse video.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So we my very first season, within the first couple of months, I mean, because I had the plants ready to roll. As soon as my brother put that roof on, those plants went down in there. They started just sprouting like, before you knew it, I had this really lush garden full of plants and tomatoes and squash, and I had everything you could think of. In the very first season, I had 100% success. I had about a 90% success. I had trouble with squash. I had a disease with the squash, but Brian and Barry Chad talked to me. Gazakov talked to me. I had help from within the tribe. So you have your spiritual connections with your guides, and then you have your fellowship with the tribe, and you can get things accomplished and find ways to do things without totally freaking out, losing it, or creating such a mess that you end up hurting other people or harming other people. And I still have it, and this is my fourth growing season. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And by the way,
Now you're a seasoned grower.
they had a letter. Yeah, they had a letter, you guys. This is how far they were willing to go. They have the right, apparently, as a townhome association, to tell you have so many days to tear something down. And if you refuse to cooperate, they will find a way to enter your premises. They'll get the sheriff's office to come to your door, or they'll go through your back fence, or they'll climb over the fence with a landscaping crew, and they will take down your structure. And then they have the right to bill you for the time because you violated their rules.
Yeah.
See,
It never
that's
happened, by the way.
Yeah.
that's the thing. If I was living in the United States, I would steer clear of any homeowners association,
Yep.
like a demon from the cross, as we
Like
say
the
in our
plague.
country.
Like the
I
plague.
would never ever even
Yeah.
think about no.
Yeah.
I mean, here in Germany, if I want to, I can build myself like a satanic mosque if I wanted to in my backyard, and nobody's going to say anything.
Well, you know what else I did?
Well, maybe not.
It does
not
have its place, you guys. It does have its place.
Yeah, it does. But you know what I did, you guys? I joined the association. I became a board member, and then I became the president of the board. I became the secretary
Are you
treasurer.
kidding?
And guess what else I did?
What?
I brought my brother in, who's a home improvement expert, to give the board guidelines to help people make choices about the kinds of products and materials, because we were not given any guidelines. We were just told what we could and couldn't do. So this thing mushroomed. So you see how things happen?
You're like,
You know what?
I'll exercise my free will.
That's
You
free
just
will,
want-
baby.
Yeah.
You know what makes it even more ridiculous is the fact that you can mostly buy these greenhouses like pre-made at home improvement stores, like I don't know what you have over there, like Baumax or one of these big stores. They sell them. They sell kits.
Well, they do. They sell kits, and they weren't at the prices that I needed them to be. We had the material from other job sites, so we replenished the materials that happened to go with the deck. And we modified the plans that Brian Barnett sent to work around these other external influences. So going custom and doing it ourselves was the best thing for us at the time. But you see all the outcome from it. It's one thing comes across.
It could have
so
gone a completely different way, but it didn't because of the way you chose to use your free will. That's pretty cool. Hey, we have a visitor, and Jules is popping in. Hey, Jules.
Hey, Jules.
She said she was going to.
What's up? What's up, Sister Jules?
What's happening?
I thought I'd use my free will and pop in and talk about gardens.
Okay. How's your garden growing? How's that bed garden going? That is some cool stuff.
It is happening, and I planted today at the base of the bed with some comfrey, so it'll be a knit bone garden now.
It's really cool. I don't know if you guys know in chat, she took a bed frame and put it out in the yard and added dirt and mulch and all kinds of nutrients and planted it and seeded this bed. And it's really cool. It's like just the frame of the bed and it's got everything on it. It's such a clever idea. I just, I love that. I thought that was great.
It's because we have our Three Creeks farm stall because it's on the corner of Mary's Creek and Eel Creek, and we're in the little suburb of Pie Creek, which is not, and there's no shops or anything.
Make her right at the bed.
So at the bed is the creek bed I put there to start creating our community garden. So I'm just come from our Three Creeks farm stall now, and I sold my medicinal herbs and my smudge sticks and my potted my citrus. So we had all the farmers or the growers from our area sit on the corner and sell our produce. So our community's growing. We had honey come today, our little sweet honey. I just said she's a little honey.
That's wonderful.
That's cute. That's cute.
Yeah. So that's what I've been doing. Last week, while I could be on the show, was because we had our agricultural show and everyone was selling their produce, and they won awards with their avocados and bananas and everything. So
wonderful.
So I've just come from a short little moment to pop in.
So how has your free will changed the way that your community gets together?
Well, you just plant a little seed. My free will just gets an idea and I just go and plant a little seed. And then watching that free will from everybody else get involved. Like I said to while we were standing there today with the other growers, I said, we'll just put it out there that we would like someone to do a sign to put up on the trailer of this truck that sits in front of us because it can't fit in the actual timber yard. And the girl that just turned up with the honey said, my partner can actually create that sign for you. So that's how quick it was. You know, I said, because we haven't got a lot of funds between all of us because we're all just like a cooperative. We just bring our stuff and take it. So we haven't got a fund to getting signs produced. So I said, let's just put it out to the universe. And it took 5 seconds. And she said, we'll do it for you. And she was the new girl that come to the stall. So you just got to you got to just be in your own, you just got to do it. Don't rely
on. Okay. So you cut out there. You just got to do it. You said,
sorry. Just get be. Out there you just got to be.
Okay, there. Be in the moment. Be authentic.
Be in the moment,
yeah. And that's when the magic happens. Most definitely.
Yeah.
Because that's the flow. That's basically being in the flow.
And that's why I always write flowers. Being in the flowers.
In the flowers.
And there's something else you say about. There's something else Jules says about resistance, and I think it has to do with the more you push back, the more resistance. And you're not in the flow, then all this other stuff starts happening that doesn't help you meet your goal.
Not being in the flow doesn't feel good. Being in the flow feels good.
Yeah, so if it's light, it's right. If it's heavy, well, don't even keep pushing at it because it's not meant to happen.
Don't pick it.
Yeah, well, that kind of reminded me of that classical story, The Man Who Planted Trees, the true story of
Oh,
Eleazar Bouffier.
Mm-hmm.
Where, free will, the free will of one individual is sufficient to transform an entire like region for the
Mm-hmm.
better.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
yeah,
You think?
yeah. I mean, well,
Yeah.
that's just one example of that,
Uh-huh.
but it's such a fitting example given what you were talking about, Jules. So,
Yeah. Well, like we have. Oh shit! Like we have like the bed, right? I've put that there, and some people have called it an eyesore, and so of course I was going okay, and then I go, well, I saw. Of course, I've created it from I saw into the
Mm-hmm.
future instead of
mhm,
going, oh, that's an eyesore.
mhm.
Meaning it looks
Good
like
point.
rubbish,
Yeah.
right?
Good
Ah,
point. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, of course, at the initial thing, I thought, oh, okay, someone doesn't like that bed situation there. It's an
Mm-hmm.
eyesore.
Uh-huh.
And so,
I,
of course, at first I went, oh my God, here it goes again. Here's creative Jules. She's out there out in her future self creating what she can see, and then
mm-hmm.
someone comes along and goes, and I've had that in all of the times of being
Yeah.
me, in all the
Mhm,
things I've done. You
Sure.
get the naysayers that
Uh-huh.
go, oh, how can you do that? Oh, that's a bit crazy. Oh, you're off with the fairies. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm just
mhm,
like everybody else, but I just keep doing it. And when it
Uh-huh.
feels right, you just keep doing it. So if it's
Yes.
heavy, or
Yeah.
you just stop, go, okay, it's not, because people used to always say, oh, you're ahead of your time, Jules.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just keep seeing what's happened. So I know, like I've shared before, we've already won.
Yeah.
Of
mhm,
course, people go, oh, how can you say that? Because
Yeah.
I've seen it.
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
I saw.
when you were
I
Mm-hmm.
saying
saw.
it, yeah, when you were saying that, you were right because we did
Yeah.
win.
Yep.
That's
Mm-hmm.
right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's
And
how you
someone,
got to live with your free will, because you are
Mhm,
able to create it as you flow, right?
mhm,
Each
Mm-hmm.
time you flow in the moment. So if you're getting a brick wall, well, you'll go, okay, that's not the way I got to go now. I'll go divert and be flexible and say, well, I'll
bingo.
do it this way.
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's always an alternative way to look at
You
things
just got
and
to think of a creek
yeah.
bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at the
Yeah.
creek, how it flows,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right. If you
And
were to build a brick wall in the middle of that creek, it would just go around it.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it would
Yeah.
divert. That's
It's not
right.
Right.
going to
Yes.
bust it down. It's just going to
Mm-hmm.
go around it.
It's a
And
Yeah.
in
diversion.
Yeah,
time, and in
Yeah.
time, it's going to erode it until it comes down.
Mm-hmm.
that's right. And that's
Yeah.
what we're doing with the system. It's eroding, and we're
Yeah.
now, as the new foundation, creating the system we are here now to create. So we are
Mhm,
the ones we've been waiting for to create this new system that we want to live in, instead of a nanny state that's the controllers. So you
mhm.
stay in
Yeah.
your knowing and just be, because you're the part of the puzzle that's waiting for you to be you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mhm.
The
That's
way
Yeah.
right.
shower. The way
That's right.
shower.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Totally.
Because
Yep.
I don't do
And
what
that's
you four do.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yep.
And
That's
now you
right.
know
We.
what Lori, this
Did
is
you get that?
exactly what Lori
Sounds
was
like
saying. You choose your path, and free will allows you to be in control of the route, but there's a certain amount of letting go and going with it, but you're still controlling it because you've chosen not to resist it or respond in a different way. That was a
Mhm,
choice in of itself
Mm-hmm.
that you make. And by the way, that choice is made daily for me sometimes around here.
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
well, that's like the
Maryland's a
last
crazy
little.
place to live.
Oh,
Mhm.
and I just heard a story about Maryland too, but I'm not going to put it out there into the ethers. Oh my goodness me.
Oh, I know. Yeah, don't even go. I know what you're. Yeah, back,
Anyway,
back, Dracula.
that's
No,
not
just kidding.
that's not even my world. I just happened to hear that story and I went, oh my God, I
Yeah.
don't live in that world.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah. We got some wackadoodle things. We're too close to Washington D.C. Like we're on top of it.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Right. Well, as you can see, I'm not anywhere near Washington, D.C.
No.
Yeah. Same here.
Lucky
But the
you.
truth seeker's
Yeah.
out this way. Truth seeker's somewhere. We have to get together, truth seeker. Yeah. We don't live that far apart.
Well, actually, I'm actually happy. I'm at my place, so there's actually some signal that's obviously working. That's good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, you got
Pretty
great
cool.
reception.
Yeah, you
Very
do.
good.
Probably better than you have in a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As then she freezes.
Yeah.
Spoke too
Well,
soon.
I tell you up all. Yeah, that's right. They just heard us.
Mhm.
See, you went,
Righto.
nah, nah, nah. They went, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I do have to admit my battery's going flat because this morning when I got up to get organised for the, the stall, I thought, oh yeah, it's not I can't charge it yet because it hadn't gone flat enough, and I'm at 13%, so it'll probably go a little bit because it's nearly finished anyway. It's nearly an hour, isn't it?
Yeah, almost. And I have a little story, just a really short story that I thought was really cool. And now that
Okay.
you're here, Jules, if you can hang in,
Yep.
Jules, I'd like to get
Yep.
your response to it. And Brian,
Yep.
Grandpa
Go
Brian
ahead.
in Dalibor. Okay,
Yep.
so you may have heard this story before in various different flavors or variations of it, but once upon a time, no, there was a time. It's story time. Woo!
Once upon
All
a
right.
time. Once upon a time, you lived
I
happily
can put
ever
you to
after.
sleep. Trust me. All right. There was a time when a man was sad, angry, and scared. He had no faith in anyone or any connections spiritually. He was frustrated, so much so that many people, he was just frustrated because so many people around him were suffering. And terrible things were happening to these people. But he felt there was nothing he could do about it. Then there was this woman he worked with, a coworker, and she wanted to be his friend. She knew he needed friendship. And so she started telling him stories about an ancient group of people from an ancient land who had so many troubles. This is way back in the ancient past. These people had so many troubles. In fact, they were slaves. And all they wanted to do was leave a desert. They had no food nor water. But in all of this, they claimed a God came to their rescue. Now, the man didn't believe in anything like that, and he had no trust in positive cosmic influence of that kind or any of that kind of help from above, In fact, he used to make fun of the very notion of a God concept. But as his life started improving, and due to better choices he was making, the pain in his heart started to fade away. He started to think about those people in the desert, and he thought it was their will. It was their faith in each other that led to all those miracles. It was the choices they made through their own willpower about their circumstances and challenges on their journey in that desert. That's what led them to freedom. And he started thinking, because perhaps those slaves made the God in that desert. Perhaps they made that godlike energy possible just by the way they interacted and worked through things. Perhaps they are the ones who created a concept of God. So then he said, there are no external saviors. There's no external powers over me, my own thoughts or actions, or even collectively as a group if we so choose to think that way. So it's we who are divine aspects of divine energy. Everything is free will within, and how we implement the choices we make on the journey we want to experience. Well, that's what gets us to where we want to be, he finally concluded. So I just thought that was a perfect example, that story. And I don't know, what do you all think? Do our minds, do our consciousness create the concept of God? We are sovereign. We are God. We are part. and
Well, under
parcel of
certain
everything.
circumstances, yeah, under certain circumstances, that could be considered like a tulpa that they created out of thin air just by, their own collective mind coming up with it and then reinforcing that together in like a group setting. But then
Hmm.
again, in all probability, it was like a being from outside this realm, whether you want to call that an alien or somebody from a different continent,
But see,
who
he's
came
saying it
down
wasn't.
and made a
Mhm.
deal with them.
Uh-huh. Now you see a modern interpretation, but I think where he's coming from is what they were perceiving. In other words, it was an invisible source. The manna from heaven was invisible. They never saw a ship. They never described that.
They
What
saw a pillar
that
of fire
kept
and a pillar
happening,
of
they were
smoke.
actually making happen themselves to get themselves out of it. And what he's saying is there's nothing controlling us from up above, from without. It's all from within and how we connect our spirits and souls to one another that helps make that group effort.
Well, and God
Make it
is
our goal.
love. So when you bring that
Uh-huh.
loving intention together, then nothing can
Right.
stop you.
So they
Mhm.
created, in other words, they were using it. He's using a what do you call it? An analogy or
Hmm.
he's not being
Metaphor.
literal.
Hmm.
Metaphor. Thank you, Lori.
Metaphor.
He's using
Hmm.
a metaphor. The whole story is a metaphor of that energy that we can capture
Hmm.
if we put our minds and hearts together. So I guess the message I'm trying to give tonight is I'm fully aware at all the different things that are going on in society, just like the rest of you are.
Hmm.
And like I said in another group I was meeting with the other day, I get phone calls from people that are in tears about this. And no, your free will hasn't been taken away. No, you're not in prison. Um, don't let the fear take your power away from you. You have the power. And speaking metaphorically, it's through the unity community. And this is what you see in Jules, this area, and in Australia. That's why they're the perfect, to me, a
Mhm.
really great example
Hmm.
of how people, once they make up their mind
Hmm.
to fight something,
Yeah.
not one
Oh, yeah.
shot was fired, not one brick
Mhm.
was thrown, not
Yep.
one
Mhm.
bat was used, nobody got punched except for the ones that were violating their freedoms, were using tear gas or tasers or dragging them off in cuffs. But the people themselves continued their rituals, their practices, their dances, their songs, their unity, their community. They found ways to help each other, creative ways to get
Yeah.
around things. They lost some things in the process, but they gained so much more. And in the end, they actually accomplished a
Well,
complete
see,
turnaround of that legal system.
but in order for you to make a free choice and exercise your true free will, you pretty much have to ignore about 90% of what the so-called media is telling you, because the media is, first of all, it's the church of the state, and it's the
Uh-huh.
enemy of
Yeah.
the people. It is the enemy of the people, because
Yeah.
the farther out you concentrate your focus, the more
Hmm.
you're getting away from your true free will. Because let's say I were to concentrate on, oh my God, there's two stars colliding,
Yeah.
500 light years away. What am I going to do? It's a disaster. You can't worry about everything. So, why should I be worried about what goes on in, I don't know, North America, South America? I can only worry about what goes on here where I live, and what's happening to all my friends. That's all. I don't have to take in the totality of all the propaganda that they're feeding us through television, radio, newspapers, all that.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
because if I make a choice based on that false information, then I'm not exercising my true will, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Agreed. Yeah.
Yep. That's what I say to the group. You have no you don't know what's going over there, if it's even, because I always often say it's a green screen, and you're just thinking that that's going on, but it's just fed to you to think that. Whereas
Hmm.
where we're standing right now is all that exists. So
Hmm.
you can see that there's nothing like that going on anywhere in your world. So
Yeah.
don't buy into all that story.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah. If it's not
Yeah,
part
you
of your
don't have to
reality,
buy into it. Yeah, you don't.
Yep.
But what do you say to the people that say people like us are basically sticking our head in the sand and just not
Oh,
choosing not to see it. How
I
would
got a
haven't
good
you
one.
heard? Okay, go ahead.
Because I got that many years ago. This fella, I think he'd lived in every war in the ever been. And when they were going on in Afghanistan, he says, "Oh, your head's in the sand." And I go, "Actually, sand is silicon quartz and it's a reflector. And I am in touch with my radio," or something to that effect, because, you know, sand is actually a transmitter and receiver. And what I see in the sand is no war.
Yeah, exactly. That's the same.
I think war
that's the
should be
s-
outlawed. I think
That's
it
the
should
same.
never happen.
Exactly.
No,
Yeah.
well, it
But
doesn't happen in my world, so I don't see a war going on as such. If you stay in your own
God
free will and
bubble. Yeah.
sovereignty, you don't even see it.
Yeah.
There is none. I
Yeah.
mean, I
Yeah.
know my father went to war because I know that from
Mhm.
him being my father.
Mhm.
And there was an innocent boy. He never drank or smoked, and he come home a totally different person from that, which was generated that the same side, you're fighting the same side. It's not even it's just to generate fear in everybody, and it's just the same money is
Control,
supporting both
power.
sides. So it
Money.
doesn't matter, but we're all aware of that now.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah, we
don't
are.
buy into the fact that it's a thing, because most of it's probably a green screen and there is no fighting going on because there is no money to pay for that.
Yeah.
So I believe it's just theatre. That's what I just say.
Yeah.
It's just theatre.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
there's no war going on in my country or my town. Oh, I'm going flat. Going flat, guys. Gotta go.
Going flat.
Yeah.
Okay, no worries. Thanks for popping in, Jules.
Love you, Jules.
Love you.
Thank you so
I'm so
much
glad
for
you
all you
came.
do.
Same to
Righto,
you.
bye.
Bye, Julie.
See you later,
Bye,
Jules.
Jules. Love
Bye.
Right
See
out.
ya.
But see, to anybody who would accuse me of sticking my head in the sand, I'd be like, all right, that's the same thing as if somebody were to point out that, every restaurant you go to, you always order spaghetti bolognese or shrimp lo mein. How come you never order anything else? Because that's what I like. So just because a restaurant's offering like all this stuff doesn't mean I have to order it if I don't like it.
Oh,
Right?
like the special when you go in.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
pushing
exactly.
the special.
They're pushing the special, and I don't
Yeah.
want that.
Yeah.
I'll order beef stew and spaghetti bolognese or something like that. Something beef based as opposed
There
to
you
pork
go.
based.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I think it's a awesome discussion on this tonight. I think
Yeah.
we've kind of, presented a different view and some different options for people and how you see things. It really is how you view the world, and it's from your perspective. It's not from anyone else's. So,
That's right.
yeah.
We've said it before. We try to create a safe space for everyone here. And on A7, we're not asking you to believe what we believe in.
No.
We're telling you those things that are important, things that have come to us or we have experienced or come to understand.
We just share.
So that you can consider other possibilities and see other perspectives
Right.
for your own
Only
personal
you
empowerment.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also to question what you've been taught.
Yes.
Don't accept anything, at face value, especially
Out of the
if it
box
doesn't
thinking. Yep.
especially if it doesn't resonate with your soul, if it doesn't resonate with your instincts, so to speak.
Yeah. Thanks,
and
Mary.
a good example of that would be the whole flat earth discussion, which could be a theme for a different show.
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
We got
How many flat
surprises
surfaces are there in the universe?
Well, see, according to flat earth theory, what we see above us is just a hologram. It's not real. It's just those are just
So
lights
you're
in the
saying
sky.
it's flat and has a dome? I've always wondered what the whole
It
flat
most
earth
likely
theory was.
has some kind of a dome, and that dome moves around.
Okay.
And it's not real in the sense that rocks are real, buildings are real, or things like that. So you can no more land on the moon than you could land on land inside the Simpsons home, because it's a fictitious creation. It's not something that's real, tangible.
Yeah. Interesting. Fascinating. Teresa, do you want to tell them anything about next week?
Well, we've got a couple cool shows coming up.
Yeah, we
and
do.
So, I'm still working on with Lori on the outline of it, but it'll be something different. And it's something that's a little bit mixed with both history, ancient history, and a little bit of modern thinking. And I don't want to give it away because I think that the show trailer is going to be dynamite for it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so it'll be a little bit more on the historical side, but it'll also give us a glimpse at something that a lot of people don't know a whole lot about.
Yeah.
And I'm
sure going to expose you
to
something new.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now there is a lot of people that have heard about it. I mean, especially if you're in the spiritual community, but there's going to be viewers of ours that have not heard this and or thought about it in a certain way. And so I'll leave it at that. It's a mystery. It's
all right. So looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it. That's right.
Yep.
You bet.
So, and thank you everyone for your support. We're still growing. The channel's still growing, and we really appreciate your camaraderie and participation.
We do this because we want to. We show up every week, and Dalibor shows up every week. Grandpa Brian shows up every week. Sophia, many others. We're all here because we want to be, and we want to share what we know and what we've learned. And it's just such a pleasure to have a chat room and people who actually are engaged in what we're discussing. So it makes it great for us.
I'll tell you for next week, just, I know Max Vision has remote viewed this location. I know that Mary Wins is going to really enjoy it if she can be around, and JoJo would too. So get the word out to JoJo because they're history buffs on ancient history. And Mary Wins is very good at posting things about these, and so I'm sure she knows quite a bit and will add a lot to the conversation.
So is Jeannie Griffin.
Jeannie Griffin. Oh, yeah. See, there's a bunch of us that are into the ancient archaeology and some of the history, and so it'll be a lot of fun. And
fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. There is something I wanted to. Finally, thank you. We were able to get together as a group for that new Digging Deeper webcast on Karen's Queen of Quartz Crystal Network. We finally did our first show on transhumanism and AI and nanotechnology, and it was a really great discussion, right, Dalibor?
Yes.
And Max hosted it, recorded it. Karen's got it. When she gets to San Antonio and gets a better network connection, she's going to put it up on the website. And we'll get an advertisement out so you all can hook into that if you want to dig deeper into some of the science about what's going on in that subject. It's not on a esoteric level as much as it is looking at all the science that's going into it. So,
and the historical background of it.
And the historical background of it, and how it's evolved into what it's evolved into, and what's really going on. The things that are happening are real, and they're every day, and it helps increase awareness. So you will get an education. It's on demand. It's not a show like this where you go live with the chat room. They'll be on demand, so you can go in and play the video and see the discussion. And
through the Crystal Network website?
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll be able to view it that way. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great.
And there's reference videos, too. There's other smaller videos and reference materials. Marsha Price pulled all this stuff together that she's been researching for the past couple of years and pulled it all together, and we're getting it up onto the website, and there'll be a whole section on health and wellness too for protection.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. So, that's good.
Yeah. So, but thanks to Max, and don't forget to catch his shows on Saturday nights, Friday nights, Saturday nights, and Sundays. He also has daytime programs. So, but I'm sure he'll be interested in this particular show that we're doing next week. So, all right, folks.
Well, sending all of you out there lots of peace and love, and we'll see you next week. Have a wonderful weekend, and love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.